and they're starting Microsoft AI, a whole new over-encompassing division where these two people are leading it, and it's going to include all of their AI practices. So that's pretty cool.
Hey everyone, this is Heini and Zachariassen here, and welcome to Founders Weekly, where we cover the news for startup founders and tell you stories you can learn from. Today we're talking about a secret Facebook project to win over Snapchat, how Microsoft is taking over a startup, and all the legal trouble that big tech companies are in. My co-host today is Hassan. He's a founder, developer, and a friend. Welcome, Hassan.
Thank you, Heini.
So this week I am coming from Spain. Where are you, Hassan?
I am back in beautiful Copenhagen, where we first met.
So there you go. Are you liking it? Summer is coming, so you're back?
Summer's coming, so I'm back. Danish summers. That's what it's all about.
Could be worse. Okay, today our first section is going to be all about the legal trouble that the big tech companies are in, both in Europe and in the US, and especially how that could impact startups and innovation. Let's get straight to that news. Apple is sued by US Department of Justice, the DOJ. DOJ has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Apple, accusing it of monopolistic practices with the iPhone. And there's been a lot of talk about this for a long time. What do you say about this? We'll go deeper into it in a second, what it actually is, but what do you think about this?
I mean, I'm very torn when it comes to this because I'm not a big fan of just like governments coming in and interfering with tech, especially because governments usually have no idea what's going on in tech, as we've seen in Congress hearings sometimes.
Yes, sometimes.
A lot of times. But at the same time, there is something shady that Apple is doing here every now and then, which again, like you said, we'll jump into those details. I'm not sure if it's the government or the consumers really that should be penalizing Apple, because if you believe in the free market or whatever, right, then it should be the consumers going like, oh, we demand this. But the question
is the consumers. This, I think they're arguing we built this law that if capitalism gets to go totally rampant, it's going to go overboard and the consumers are going to lose. That's why they built these laws, right?
True. I guess that makes sense. Yes. And again, Apple has gone maybe a little too far.
Yes, and obviously, they make money and they're good at making money. But there is a trade here somewhere. Their claim is that we do it for the users, to protect them and to get the best user experience. And often that is true, at least in the short term, but you still have to, there are some rules you have to deal with. But let's have a look at what they're actually saying, which is quite interesting. So they are saying that that Apple is blocking super apps, excluding cross-platform messaging apps, diminishing the functionality of other non-Apple smartwatches, and limiting third-party digital wallets. And these are some of the biggest ones, but let's take some of them. So the super app thing is interesting. I just came out of China, and obviously WeChat is the biggest. It's almost like a platform over there. Why do we not have that in the West? They're saying nobody was able to build that because Apple and Google blocked it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course WeChat wants to be in the app stores in the US and the UK. Why aren't they here? Why isn't Alibaba here? I think these are questions that people like us founders would ask, but people aren't aware that these super apps even exist specifically in China. In fact, this is the whole X thing with Elon Musk. He wants to build an everything app, right? So he's trying to do that here. And it's going to be very interesting to me once X actually starts to go that route fully.
But their argument is you can't do it. You can't do it because Apple is keeping such a hold on the iPhone hardware that you lose your ability to actually do that. Is that true as a developer?
Well, no. I mean, if you have a great app for everything, you can bundle it all up together. I think this is more Apple just, locking people out of the App Store anytime they're trying to get, especially because we have examples of it. There is no WeChat where we are.
Yeah.
So
no, exactly. So there's some truth there somewhere.
Yeah. They're literally preventing developers from doing it. Like I'm talking legally, not in terms of software.
Okay. So the next one is a big one, and it feels like such a small thing, and that's the messaging apps, right? Google has been pushing Apple and teasing Apple by going on this new standard, but they keep insisting on iMessage. And I don't know if Apple is really, they're trying to be holy, want to give the best experience here. Yeah, it's not, I don't think this does not make Apple look good.
No, see, you until recently, or maybe not, I don't know. You've always been the Android user, right? I think we've had this
Yes, that's
discussion
correct.
since we met,
We
right?
have,
And
we
I was the
have.
iPhone user. I have no idea what to think about this one. I've always tried to empathize with the Android crowd, with the blue bubble and the yellow and the green bubble, right?
Yeah.
To me, it just seems like Apple building just a great app, a messaging app for their users, and it's not like you lose any. Like you can still message
No,
Android.
it's horrible. It's horrible. All
Is it?
videos, everything gets, yeah, it's so bad. It gets so
But
bad. Yeah, yeah.
between
And
Android,
look,
it's good.
yes, yes, it is because there's some kind of NCS standard that they do, and most of these chat apps do, but
Mm,
Apple doesn't, right? Apple knows exactly what they're doing here. They should have been on that standard a long time ago. Look, I've had kids that have changed platform because of this bloody bubble. So
mm.
there's no doubt about that. People love iMessage. iMessage. It's a great product, but it is keeping some people out.
Yeah, yeah. No, okay. I see it now. I see it now. I think I was definitely in the dark, or maybe in the green bubble
So
when it
yeah,
comes to that.
someone played a specific. I saw something about, there was a Q&A where Tim Cook was asked. A person comes up and he has an iPhone, and then he talks about sending messages to his mom that has an Android, and he complains that the video comes out, it's not very good, and Tim Cook says, you know what, you just buy your mom an iPhone. And people laugh,
Ooh,
and it's really funny, right? But that is being used against him.
that
So
is,
so it's a
yeah.
little unfortunate.
That's Apple 101 right there.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
actually,
exactly.
that really relates to the next one, the smartwatches one, right? Like the
Yes.
smartwatches one is just intense. You have
Yeah.
Apple preventing people, right, from actually like connecting with their software with iPhones. If you have like a different watch, it's just terrible experience compared to
Yeah.
any other phone. And then if you buy a Apple Watch, which should work everywhere, right? Nope, it pretty
Apple
much
only.
like only works with iPhone. That one
Yeah.
is that one's very Apple 101 kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's so tricky, right? And I bet most users just think, look, this is great because that's why Apple works, and there is some truth in that too, right? But look, I think it's good the government pushes a little bit here. There's certain things they should. So we got to find some kind of balance here.
Especially because, here's the thing, the price point. Apple is just expensive. If
Yeah.
Apple was less expensive and they're like building these little toys that like work together, but their laptops are 4 times, 5 times the price of every other laptop. Their phones are twice or 3 times the price of other phones. And so what ends up happening is you're pushing people towards your products and then you're super raising the price. And
Yeah.
that does create some form of monopoly. Um,
I think so. I
so
think so, or
yeah,
partially. Yeah. Obviously,
partially.
the this is more relevant in the U.S. because they have a bigger market share in the U.S. than they do in Europe.
Yeah.
Apple has lost over 100 billion in market value amid worries about potential fines and regulatory intervention. So people are worried about this.
Oof.
But I want to go a little bit deeper here because a lot of this is happening in Europe too. So these big companies are they really, are they, because they're being sued in Europe too. So are these big companies, are they destroying innovation? What's the impact for startups for these companies? I think that's really something worth talking about because we are in an era now where these companies dominate a lot. And we think it's great, but is it though in the long term?
So I have a bit of a nuanced slash. I don't hate too much on the big tech companies. Like when we think about the stuff we build these days, a lot of the technology, a lot of the software, a lot of the hardware, you think, oh, I'm going to use React for the web or React Native or Flutter
Yeah,
or whatever it is, right? Like in development world, and a lot of that is coming from those big
true.
companies. So they do give us a lot of that. Now at the same time, this whole really big company comes in and disrupts the startup space. This has been something that happens since the beginning of time,
Yeah.
right? And for me,
The
that's what's
shift is
fun
that they're
about
the
being a,
old
a
big companies
startup.
now, right?
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
They are now the big companies, but I personally don't worry too much about like Google and Facebook and whatever coming and taking my startup idea and stealing it and making it a million times better because for me, like, that is actually our unfair advantage, is that we have less time, right? The
Sure.
whole work smarter, not harder thing in startups is actually what people should be doing, because these companies come in, right? They put in thousands and thousands of employees and hours. You have 40 hours a week, maybe, or whatever. If you're really killing it, 80 hours a week, right? 10 people, 800 hours a week, you're never going to outwork them. It's impossible. The only way is to outsmart these companies. And I think
Yeah.
that has never changed and will never change. And as always, you can maneuver our smaller ship in a startup much faster than a big company.
Or you can sort of, you have more courage, you can move faster, you can make more gutsy decisions. I think that's where they often fail. We
Yeah.
talked about this before. That's why Google is failing too, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a little more worried, I will say. I think if you're building in verticals like us in a wine app, it's a huge market, but it's also a little bit too small for
Mm.
Google to really focus on it. But what if you want to win something really big? Take AI as a category, right? We have at least one big company that is relatively new, but that was basically founded by a lot of the people that were there already. I'm thinking OpenAI.
So expand on that a little bit. Like, what do you mean in
No,
terms
I'm
of,
just saying. So Facebook was nothing when they started and got funding and went all the way. Google
right,
was nothing. OpenAI was not like that. OpenAI
right?
was massive funding from day one from the people that are established in Silicon Valley already. And I think that's a difference.
Okay. Yeah, but here's the thing, right? OpenAI, you needed the money. You need
Sure, some
hundreds
people,
of
some
millions
companies need
of
more money. Yeah,
dollars, right, in order to train these models. So yes, if you're a repeat founder, if you're in the industry, it's going to be easier for you to get more money. That is going to give you an unfair advantage. Again, this is where innovation comes in.
yeah,
I don't know.
totally.
Like,
And you have to
again,
move
I
faster. You have to be more courageous.
exactly, and I really think, again, that talking about net positive versus net negative, I still think
Yeah,
they're net positive because they are enabling us to build the things we build now, in many
yeah,
many ways, right?
yeah. You are very
But
loyal to them, I must say.
I
But
yeah, which is weird because I'm usually the disruptor. I mean, I am, right, and I've never worked really like for one of the big tech companies. Like, I've had offers and I said no because I just, like, no, I would never work for Facebook. Oh, I don't like them. I really don't. But it's okay to say, like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, they provide us with some things. Like, I don't
yeah,
mind their
look,
existence.
I don't believe that they're evil and stuff. I don't believe in that. I
Right.
mean, in their core, they're companies that try to make money, and they will maybe say some things, but really have we should make this a little bit different, so it's a little bit harder for others. I mean, that happens, right? So
Yeah.
let's take a look. We have one more story, which is quite interesting because Apple's argument is always going to be, hey, we do this to get a better user experience, and which is true. We know that is true. Like, if you make closer ecosystem, there are advantages to the user
Right.
experience. So the next story is Facebook had a secret project to kill Snapchat. Facebook launched Project Ghostbusters in 2016 to intercept Snapchat traffic. Court documents revealed that Facebook aimed decrypted Snapchat communications. The secret project goal was to understand what behavior users had on Snapchat. Facebook's project intended to gain a competitive advantage over Snapchat. And why the name Ghostbuster before we move on here?
Because of the logo, I am dying laughing at the name. That is brilliant. That is
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's good funny. Yeah. So I mean, this is just an example of the big guys. Again, I'm not saying evil here, but like being a little bit more. This is not good, right? You should not be doing these kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, there are Project Ghostbusters everywhere. If you're doing good and there's a project in a big tech company with a good name aimed at disrupting whatever you're doing, congratulations, because you're doing good. You're doing
You're
really
on their
well.
radar. You're on their
You're
radar.
on the
Obviously,
radar.
with Facebook, there was a story, right? They tried to buy them. They didn't want to buy them, and then Meta, Facebook really decided to go after them, right?
That's actually a classic Meta thing,
Yeah.
as well. Threads.
They either copy or buy. They don't really innovate, but they're really
That's
good at
that's
building
it.
stuff that's been built already by somebody else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, we're going to do one more of these. Again, not evil companies, but just big companies. And so Microsoft to pay Inflection AI 650 million after scooping up most of their staff. So is this another example of a big tech just killing a new startup and grabbing all their employees? What is this?
This one is very interesting because they're not killing the company. The company's still, well, I mean, they just gave them 650 million. That's an
Yeah,
interesting
so
way to
it's
get to
okay.
kill a company, right? But this goes back to distribution. We talked about this on this podcast before, specifically distribution when it comes to AI. What does this company do? They build models. How are you
Yeah,
going to distribute your models? Azure is one of the best marketplaces for models in a way, for developers to kind of connect very, very easily to. And so that's, and also they're giving them a whole lot of compute, a whole lot of bandwidth to work with that Microsoft can provide. So we've seen Microsoft do this play over and over and over again, and it's not going to be done anytime soon. What's very interesting about this one, though, is that they didn't just come in and give this company money. They took, I think, what, their CEO and their CTO or something, like
yeah, exactly.
they're two super
Yeah,
smart people, and they're moving them to Microsoft. So they literally took these two people and they're starting Microsoft AI, a whole new over
division kind
encompassing
of.
thing division where these two people
Yeah.
are leading it, and it's going to include all of their AI practices. So that's pretty huge.
But what happened to the old company? They got 650 million. Or the owners who got the money?
I'm actually like, I'm still not sure if it's an investment or not. Like, it seemed
Okay,
like it
I
is
think it
because
was
when I
license
first,
fees too or something. I'm not sure.
yeah, exactly. So it is good, and they already brought on like a new CEO for the company and everything.
Okay,
So yeah, as a founder, this is really exciting news kind of thing, and where you can build something very quickly, innovate, and then someone like Microsoft's like, wow, you're doing this so well. Again, going back to the Meta example, instead of us trying to build something and copy you and blah blah blah, come
yeah,
do it here. And your
yeah,
old company that still has a very very specific niche, great, let's keep them going, and in fact we're going to fund them. So
yeah,
it's I
yeah.
think
I
a
know.
double
Yeah,
success story. Yeah.
yeah. And Microsoft have shown in the last 10 years they've been incredibly good at investing and buying company and also leaving them alone.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but Microsoft used to be the place where a company went to die. They would buy things, integrate them, and they just died. But
Yeah.
they bought LinkedIn, did really, really well. GitHub is still doing well, as far as I know. And this
Yeah.
OpenAI adventure looks like defining for Microsoft. So incredibly smart moves in their acquisition strategy.
Agreed. I think acquisition and again investments, Microsoft is killing it. I think they are the
Yeah,
most killing it in terms of business, out of the big
and the
companies
biggest.
over the last couple of
Agreed.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have some more news. We are back. So, the next story here: AI fueled startup success. 80% of founders report positive impact from AI. A survey that HubSpot made with over 1,000 different founders showed that 86% of them said they had a positive impact on their go to market strategy. The research highlights that startups with the highest growth and most funding are most likely to have AI attribute to their success. So AI was playing a crucial role in customer segmentation and increasing conversion rate. So, I mean, we talk so much about AI and people are so afraid of AI, but when it comes to startups and founders, 86% say, no, this is really helping us specifically on our go to market. What do you say?
I love it. I love it. I think there are two aspects here. The first one is the funding bit. That one is a bit like VCs coming and saying, "Oh, you don't have an AI thing, we're not going to fund you." So,
No,
of
put AI behind your name, otherwise we won't fund you.
exactly. So,
Hassan.ai and we'll send
has
you some money.
it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah,
But also, the more interesting thing, which again, I really implore a lot of founders to do, AI is not a chatbot. It is a
no,
tool, right?
yeah,
We are still building core businesses, core niches. You are building, I don't know, the best tree app in the world, right? And you can still focus on the trees and what you do best there. And then AI/LLM is just another toolbox for you to, yeah, like you said, segment those trees better and
yeah.
provide.
But it's just the best.
Yeah.
You said it before. It's the best API you've ever had.
Yeah.
And you don't have to program it in the same way. You can have it do all kinds of things. It's stunning what we can do.
Exactly. You can control the output, you can control the input. I think that's a lot of what this whole AI revolution has been about. And the more people realize that, and again, stop adding chatbots to your companies. At 99% of
We can do more
companies
than that.
should not be a chatbot. That's not how you use AI. So, yeah.
Let me turn this around here. So who are the 14% that say it sucks?
The people adding the chatbots to the companies.
Yeah, this is not
No,
helpful.
but
Yeah.
No, but I mean, at the same time, there is a lot of, fear when it comes to AI. There's a lot of,
Of course.
especially there are companies
But you
that
should you
just,
really be a startup founder if you're afraid of everything, especially technology?
it's always going to keep happening. Things, and there will
Yeah.
be, it's always hard to imagine when something huge comes out. Like, what is this next huge thing that's going to disrupt things? Like with AI now, you think like,
Yeah.
oh, this is it. I need to learn AI because it's the final front. It's never the final frontier, right?
No, it's just the next
Last
one.
week,
And you don't know always how big the wave is. Some
you
waves,
have
this one
no
is,
idea.
look, I tell you, this one is big. It's just a matter of how big is it, right? A lot of people still believe and did believe crypto was big. It felt like it was at some point, but this is cannot be compared. I mean, instant change for industry with AI.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if we go into the crypto space a little bit, there's the whole NFT thing. I think that
Yeah,
one was really interesting because people were terrified. People were like, "Oh,
yeah.
I need to figure out what this NFT thing is. If I don't, put my stuff on NFTs, then I'm
You're gone. It's over.
completely irrelevant." You gotta. People need to chill. But also,
Just to that, like
yes,
people said to me, Heine, what are you crazy? When I said, look, we haven't really looked into it yet. We're not sure what to do. Are you insane? Like, this is the next big wave. Saying, like, you are stupid. And I just like, come on, come on. But I will say with AI, though, if you don't do something, somebody else will.
yeah, somebody else will. Not because they are just doing something with AI and you're not. It's because
No.
AI helps you deliver better user experiences for your user. And so they are going
Yeah.
to ultimately deliver a better product. And
Yeah.
that's what
Or
it's
make
all
you more
about.
efficient, whatever it is. It's just all
That's
those things.
it. That's it. Again,
Yeah.
it's not just about using it. And there will be future things.
Yeah.
Like we talked last week about Neuralink, how that might everything might be
Yeah.
happening in your brain. And maybe if you don't program something for people to use their brains with, then you're irrelevant. People are gonna tell you
Yeah.
that. But again, it's
And it's
yeah.
over to keep an eye on these technologies, right? Some of them come faster than others, and this Neuralink thing we talked about last week, maybe it comes in 2 years, maybe it takes 20 years. We don't know that yet. I mean, take something like self-driving. I really believe would have been further than we are now, but sometimes it just comes suddenly. Just you don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. And it's important. I'm going to mention this real quick. During these kinds of times that keep happening, to take care of yourself and take care of your
Yeah,
mental health in a way and take care of your stress
always.
levels, right? Because as a founder, the worst thing that can happen really is you kind of going into a burnout or like being super
Yeah,
stressed and worried about the future and what worry about the things you can control, you can do. There's so much. The nice thing about AI, again, is it's
yeah,
opening up more tools for you. It's not
yeah.
this scary thing where anyone can come use AI and copy your company. That's a myth, right? So
Totally. Always take care
take
of you.
yeah,
Although paranoia for a founder, I'm afraid, is also a good thing if in a
yeah.
certain balance, right?
Exactly. In a certain balance. In a certain
Yeah.
balance.
We are gonna move to the next one. 1991 Ventures in London joins the growing list of VCs aiming at investing in Ukraine startups. The fund, named after the year of independence, and will focus on investing in startups led by Ukrainians inside and outside Ukraine. So I wanted to bring up this, obviously, just to always show support for Ukraine. It's great to see that we really have money putting into startups inside, outside Ukraine. So whatever we can do to support Ukraine, we need to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. Also, Ukraine in general is so Ukraine is a country that really transformed back in the days and now the outsourcing field, right? Like people would
Yeah,
always kind of go to the let's just call it the Far East for outsourcing, and then Ukrainians are just such good software engineers. Like they were building
incredible.
extremely high quality stuff. Not just Ukrainians, like Ukrainians, Romanians, etc. And it's really it sucks with the war. It's awful. I hope it all ends soon. And it's just really great again continuing to invest in this country with so many brilliant people. So
Yeah,
makes me really happy.
totally. Yeah, me too. Me too. And apparently there are more funds to do. This was another one. In 1991, obviously the year of independence. So
Yep.
Slava Ukraine. So cool. We're gonna move on to the next one. Adam Neumann offers to buy back WeWork for more than 500 million. According to the Wall Street Journal, WeWork co-founder Adam Neumann has offered to buy back WeWork for more than 500 million. So, like, this guy can't disappear, apparently, right?
I have no like WeWork to me is just a funny joke now that we just
Yeah.
bring up every now and then. I really don't understand this company. I'm very like, okay, Heini, what would you do? Like, if you saw this huge space where this giant company massively collapsed in and out always, and you're like, you just want to go in and you want to build a startup in that space, like, what would you
Yeah,
do?
it's weird. I mean, I think there are signs that everything a lot has happened since 2020, right? So
Right.
for the market and so on, but it looks like a space that it's really that business model is really difficult to do, incredibly hard. I mean, the basics of I did a video on this a few years ago just about this. And there are many problems, and I think Adam Neumann was one of them. But also, their investors were like SoftBank just messed it all up and just threw too much, fire on everything there. But the fundamental problem here, as I see it, and someone told me this, is that you're taking long-term commitments. So you do a long lease and convert that into short-term commitments. That is just
Oh,
incredibly risky, right? So I have to do a 5-year lease here, and now I'm going to sell it to you 1 month at a time. And when stuff goes up and down, I'm just holding a massive risk here. Unless you pay me 3, 4x what I pay, then the risk is just too high.
wow, I have not thought about it this way. That's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
That makes so
even
much
Hassan
sense.
learned something on this podcast. Imagine
I'm always learning, always learning.
that.
Wow.
Fantastic. No, yeah, no, it is a strange. And when I did the list of the reasons why WeWork failed, Adam Neumann was not number one. I just felt that SoftBank just messed up that company horribly. And obviously, Adam Neumann getting as far as he did, he had many talents, and at least as many or more flaws. But he really had some talent too, and we shouldn't
Yeah,
we shouldn't
it's just
forget
like
that.
a really difficult problem, I guess. So what do you think happens
Yes.
now? Think this is gonna
Well,
work?
I think most likely there is a brand there, right? So if they can
Yeah.
find some kind of modest model, they reset all the debt, reboot the company, and then maybe there is something there. I just don't know why they would sell it to Adam Neumann. I think you need sort of frugal operators to run a company like this.
Mm,
Adam Neumann should run some other company, maybe, or maybe
okay.
not.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, or maybe he's just be a preacher man. He looks like a preacher man. He feels like a preacher man.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, we need more preachers in this world.
yeah, for
Sarcasm.
sure.
Sarcasm.
Yeah, okay, with the right things.
Yes.
So we had one more story, Hassan, but you're going to start that one. What was that about?
So actually, speaking of preachers, I wanted to ask you, and I said I'm going to ask you this live, and you don't know this one, but this whole like Trump thing with SPAC and Truth Social.
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna, you know how like you go into Google and you put keywords? I'm just gonna throw the keywords at you because I know nothing about this. I don't know
Yeah.
how
Let's
it
see what we can get
works.
out of it. Well, yeah. Basically, they've trying to do this SPAC with True Social for a long time, which means they merge into another company and then it's a listed company. And that SPAC that is listed already has a certain price. Then reporters and so on say, okay, this is the price of the thing that's listed right now, and this is what the number of shares that Trump owns. And then they say, holy crap, he's going to get 3 to 4 billion out of this. And that is just not how it works. I mean,
Mm,
I think there's a massive misunderstanding here. Number one, what happens there, obviously, when the merger happens, is massive dilution. So somehow that overall value, goes down. That's what. Who knows if people are buy or sell this Truth Social? It's overpriced beyond anything already, by the way.
So
But
so
the
but so
most
by the
important
way,
thing,
when you say 3 or 4 billion, that's in like his net worth kind of thing, you mean? Or do you mean like
yes,
cash? No.
no, not cash. No, exactly. That's
I was
that's
gonna
what
say, yeah.
if you take the current price on the stock exchange and the number of shares he will get and multiply them with each other. But
Gotcha,
the two
gotcha. Okay,
important
okay.
things are there's going to be dilution when he goes on there. That's number one. The
Yep.
second thing here is that if you own a few thousand shares of Google and that floats and you can sell it, that's easy to do, and you'll sell you a few thousand shares. That's
Right.
fine. His stock is going to be locked up for some time. That's pretty, public out there. People know that it's going to be locked at least 6 months. That can be changed by the board. The other
Mm,
thing is that it's so much that every single share you sell, somebody has to buy them. So for every share he has to sell,
mm.
pardon my French, idiot's got to buy this totally ridiculously overpriced company. I mean,
Yeah.
ridiculously overpriced. So that's not going to happen. He might sell the first few thousand shares for that price, but then it's just going to collapse because they're going to run out of buyers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not going to fly.
Wow. Okay.
So I think
This
the media
is
misunderstood that a little bit, right?
yeah, because I mean, you got to have a very solid understanding of how all that works. Like I
Yes.
didn't, right, before you
No,
just
no.
explained it to me. So, huh.
We'll see in the comments if I know what I'm talking or not. So we'll see when people say
So are you
you
are
don't
you
know
gonna
anything
buy
about.
Are you gonna buy some Truth
No,
Social stock?
yeah, no, not even for free. Not even for free.
All right, I got you. Did you
Cool.
did you uh,
But
did you get
yeah,
did you get some Reddit stock?
I did not, and it's been going up and down a little bit. They had a really bad day Tuesday, went down 50%, but they're still. I think that they'll be fine. But let's see how it goes.
I just gotta
They're still
mention.
up
I
from
gotta
there
mention
too. You
Reddit
did,
at least
you did.
once
Oh, you get because you're an editor.
because I'm a Redditor. I gotta do it at least
My
once,
God.
once per episode. Has to happen.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah, that's true. We got to mention it every time. But I was thinking, did you get any stocks or did you actually get them because you're a Redditor?
I did. I I
Oh, there
uh,
you go.
I did it after because I'm not really too much into the stock market kind of thing, but I did it. I did it after our episode last week. I'm like, you know what? I gotta put
What did you
my
buy for? How much? Do you
uh
remember? I think it's a
how much it
54 now.
was.
It probably collapsed since then.
I don't know. I think it has collapsed. I have definitely lost money. Yeah,
No, it's fine. It's fine. Reddit will be back. Okay,
yeah.
we're going to go on a short break. Thank you. Cool. We are back. So this time on the community, we're only going to talk about the podcast. And what podcast is that? That's this podcast. We are having full transparency on the podcast so people know exactly what's going on with this podcast. And I'd say the drama this week is that it's been a little bit of a difficult week here, honestly. We've gotten to episode 3 now. This is the 4th episode. We did a beta before that. We're at episode 3 now. And one of the things I really wanted to do, this is a weekly podcast, and I want to bring it with me when I travel. I was in Hong Kong this week and actually had planned to was in Hong Kong for a board meeting, but it was planned to actually record from Hong Kong. But then something
Oof.
came up that but only 3 days in Hong Kong. It was a quick back and forth. But what I've really realized, what is one of the difficult things here, is actually scheduling. When it comes to co-hosts, you, Hassan, and Thais have been amazing and has not been too hard. But getting one guest every single week has been very, very difficult. I have lined them up, but there are several gates you have to go through. First, you line them up, and then you start scheduling. And those windows are just not very big. So for
Yeah.
me, it was at a level where, okay, you just can't figure it out. Because obviously when you're in Hong Kong, one guest is in the Bay Area, another one co-host in Copenhagen. It just becomes really difficult. So
Yeah,
I was
especially I
super
guess
frustrated by that.
I guess you're trying to like get some really really high quality guests to come on in.
Yeah. The
That
best of
can be hard.
co-hosts first, you know that.
Of course, of course. No, but so how are you kind of solving for that now? Like, how would you
Yeah.
deal with
Yeah.
the scheduling?
And
Yeah,
this is the thing. Like I'm a founder, right? I'm an optimist and I always believe in things. And I always gotta go ambitiously after something. And people say, oh, this is gonna be hard. You know you're gonna need 50 guests in a year.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna need 50 guests a year. But I'm still gonna go and do it. But there are a couple of things that I'm gonna change here.
Mm.
One is that I have to realize that I am gonna fail once in a while, and it's just not gonna work to find a guest at the exact time where I need to record. So that's number one. I hope to have a guest apart from a co-host every week, but I'm going to fail sometimes, especially here in the beginning where I built it up. The other thing is when I thought I was going to have like a 4-week plan, that's not going to fly. It's 8-week minimum, probably 12-week plan. And the reason is just because I need to know where I am in the next 12 weeks. And then I need to be able to say these guests that, oh, these next 3 weeks are taken, but these are the 4 or 5 slots. And then you have time zones too, right? So some of them are in Europe, others are in the Bay Area or even in Asia. And I have to change time all the time. So it gets really quite
Wow,
complicated.
this is
3D, this is 3D scheduling.
Yeah, 3D scheduling. It is. It is. I mean, it's also quite the commitment. It's funny how I already knew you were committed to this, like from the day we first talked about it, but you never know what you're really getting into before you actually
No,
start.
exactly.
Just like with startups, right? It's just starts,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, blah, blah, blah. The next thing you know, you're figuring out your whole life for 12 weeks and bringing guests, and it's,
And if you're super realistic, you're never going to do it, right? I mean, that's the
yeah,
other thing. And I'm not always super realistic, but I'm just gonna keep going, right?
yeah. So you're
I mean,
building
the
kind
other
of this
thing,
huge calendar now, right? I guess.
yes. Where I thought it was 4 weeks, now I know it's 8. I'm probably going to be 12, and
Mm.
because there's just so many different elements of it, right? So that's, and also realizing that you're not going to find someone every single week. You
Yeah.
need co-hosts. I have 2 fantastic ones now, obviously. Again, thanks again, Thais and Hassan. And I'm going to add like two more, maybe one in the Bay Area. So I always, like, when you can do it, when Thais can do it, I have some fallback.
Oh, that's
because it's not
smart.
going to be much without cost. So having that is really important, but also realizing that this can be done without a guest once in a while. Although our first two episodes were amazing with Y Combinator and Shark Tank and all. So if you haven't heard those, you definitely got to go back and listen to those.
Check them out.
So the second thing that hit us this week was that the numbers were not very good. And we did talk about this last week, that what probably usually happens is you launch, you get a real boost, everyone's motivated, this is amazing, great numbers, and then it goes down again. And obviously I said that last week to sort of protect myself, right? Still hoping that no, this is not going to happen this time. But it did, right? So
what are the numbers?
Yeah, let's go through the numbers here. Our first episode had 759 downloads, which was great. We think we're on our way to 1,000. We sort of were, but then we went backwards. So this second episode was 361 downloads. So we're down 52%. And that really sucks when you spend a lot of time on it and this is it, boom. And you also have to sort of look at, okay, what was there something wrong with the episode? What is it? And so on. And I've concluded, I will put a positive spin on everything. I've concluded there was absolutely nothing wrong with the episode. And this was mostly about episode 1 being episode 1 and episode 2 being episode 2, meaning episode 1 just got a massive boost, posted on all platforms and all kinds of things. And then you get to episode 2 and it's just different, right?
Yeah. To be specific, it's like it's not like there's nothing wrong. There's so much I think that we can improve on, right? I think it's more like
no.
the
That
fact.
we're gonna do every week.
Yeah. Like the drop is more related to the fact that it's just the first and the second. That's
Yeah, totally. And there was no sort of, oh shit, the guest was bad, or the episode was really, really good. We still have 1,000 things that we will improve.
Right.
But yeah, exactly.
This is a classic startup story, right? I would say.
Yeah. Yes. And that's sort of what I wanted to talk a little bit about here too, because I read this book a few years ago called The Messy Middle. And it's a book by Scott Belsky. And I was thinking, should I do a recommendation on it? Well, I think you should read about it at least, and maybe read it. I wouldn't want to give you a direct recommendation because I didn't finish it myself. Full disclaimer. But the idea of the messy middle that he came up with, I think is incredible. And so the messy middle is where we are now. That's when you still have to do all the work. The numbers are not necessarily growing, and the excitement of getting started is gone. And this is where founders quit, right? I mean, this is where you get to that middle there and it's not that exciting and you got to really show some stamina. I'm not very good at quitting, so I'm just going to keep going, but I can see it, right? It is rough. It is rough that you do the exact same of work with little progress. Maybe it's even going backwards. This is typical startups.
Oof, wow. I didn't know there was a word for it. It's funny because it always almost feels like the messy middle starts almost from day 2, because people always have expectations. You put something out there and you love it and you worked on it. And then the best part is almost always, when you put something out there, it's gonna, especially if it's something good, people are gonna be like, oh wow, that's great, the launch hype or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
totally.
after that is when the real work starts. And a lot of specifically, I always see like first time founders just succumb to this. It's like, oh no, but
it's tough.
It is tough. And again, like, it's so interesting how this parallel with the podcast, right? But so
and it becomes really literal there because they're episodes, right? Yeah, go ahead.
So how are you gonna deal with this? First of all, like, kind of mentally, for founders out there, how are you gonna deal with it? But then also with the tactics.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my goal is the same. First of all, hey, just get a little bit realistic again. It is like with all these things, you start small and then you just keep going. The successful podcasts that are out there, they're the ones that kept going. I've done YouTube for a few years. That took forever, and now it's really big, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube, there is this thing they say, nobody cares about your 100 videos, right? And when you work for 3 weeks to get video 4 out, it's a little bit rough to hear that nobody cares about your first 100 videos. But that's what it takes to really get going. So it's about improving, keep going, and doing something better every single week. I believe in that for this podcast, and I believe in that for products and startups.
Wow, yeah, I absolutely, I that mindset, guys, just copy that, take it into your startups. I promise it does wonders. Like, you're gonna get there. Just week in, week out, keep going. As Heini says, like, what, stop watching and go build something. That's
yes, always
so important week in, week out. Yeah.
And obviously, what I always do, and I'm pretty good, is always to put a positive spin on it. So here's what I got for this one. It was that Spotify, there for many podcasts, I think most, there are three big platforms. YouTube is sort of the new one that used to be Google Podcasts, but then it's Spotify and Apple. And there's going to be, the numbers I have here is just those three platforms. There's going to be more out there, but it's not that big, I think. But we'll see. So the good spin is that Spotify is flat. So Spotify is not going down. And I see them sort of pushing the podcast a little bit, which I think was really quite fun. Apple is down and YouTube is way down. But Spotify is flat. I think that was kind of cool.
But relatively speaking, absolute numbers speaking, because you already had such a massive following on YouTube. So YouTube being super down is probably the reason we're super down.
True. Yeah, it's both Apple and YouTube. But yes, I think we know that we're speaking to a certain audience on YouTube. But this format is not what they signed up for, right? So that is the challenge. YouTube is building a standalone podcast platform inside YouTube. I don't think it's working yet. I just don't see it yet. So I don't know what they're doing. It feels like it mixes up with all the other videos. So they need to figure out what they're doing. They're uploaded in a separate way and so on. And they're trying to pretend that this is their new thing. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it yet. And I'm not getting any traffic or the traffic I should be getting, I think at least. So not sure, but I think it's going to come. I want to give them a chance at least. But Spotify is really, is quite good.
Yeah, I mean, what do you call them? Referring algorithms are very, 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 very interesting. And the way Spotify does them is also like, I wonder if they mix the music and podcast stuff when it comes to Spotify, because I've heard that they did. I think Apple doesn't. So basically, if someone's listening to... Katy Perry, I don't know why that's the first thing I heard.
It switches over to Founders Weekly right after.
And then they switch over to Founders Weekly. Next time someone is like listening to Fireworks, they're going to hear Heini next. So
yeah, that's amazing. Poor people. No, I noticed that there's Spotify, there's a button up top. You can push podcast, but it's very integrated. Apple, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
I think YouTube is all a big mess as far, but there's also YouTube Music. I'm not sure how it plays there. So we'll see. I think it's mostly on YouTube. It's really confusing.
Yeah. I'm very curious how YouTube does all of that. How much they truly separate them. They probably don't, right? Because again, you got at least when it comes to you have your subscribers getting your notifications, etc. Which if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe.
Yeah, right
button.
now I think they're trying to figure it out. I think they've just said, "Hey, we want to do this."
Yeah.
But they haven't really figured out how to do it yet.
Yeah.
But the big question here is like, how do we get back to growth here? Meaning, when is that going to come? Because I'm going to do the work, but when do we? Is it next week already, or how do they all need to come down and then up again, or what happens?
So here's my take: is usually when starting a company, that is not the best question to ask. It's more like, how can we deliver more and more value, and how can we keep getting better? And as long as you're moving and people are still listening, I think that's really what matters, right? And I do hope next week there's at least a little bit of uptick, like then we lose our last excuse of episode 1 being the launch episode.
Yeah, that's kind of next week. I want to find a new excuse. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, but really it is important actually to get rid of our excuses, right? Like when you're having your data in amplitude and you're looking at it, you should make sure your data is good. You should get rid of like all these kind of little things so that like what you should be working on and improving all the time. But definitely the question again is more, how could we keep getting better, provide better content, and reach a bigger audience? Yeah, by providing value.
And finally, on that big rant on the podcast there, first, I got to say thank you to everyone who is listening. And obviously, I really appreciate the people that spread the word and so on. So if you can tell one person about the podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. And we see followers numbers are going up. That's not a big thing on those two platforms, but they're definitely going up. So I'm just going to keep pushing, and I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we've come to the end. Please make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And please leave a review and rating. It really helps. For all of you out there on YouTube too, please make sure you check out Raw Startup. You can find a lot of good videos about building a startup. Thank you very much, Hassan, for being on. This has been Founders Weekly. Now stop listening and go build something.